Hello everyone, my name is Avalon, and having received my cow from Avalon, we are off to the Temple of Time to become a child at long last. Grab some, well, we can grab so many things once we become a child, so I'm actually quite excited to do so. Just avoid these dudes. We'll head out here where we've got Epona waiting for us. Last time I was talking about the thematics of dungeons in other games that aren't this one. I somehow managed to avoid going too much into Breath of the Wild because that is what I'm probably going to talk about today. So I'll give you a quick plan on what I hope to achieve in the randomizer. I'm going to go and become a child. I'm going to walk into this tree several million times. I'm going to go, once I become a child, I'm going to go to the Great Fairy temples dotted around the world. I'm going to head to Kakariko, do the mini games there and stuff. Do the market stuff in Castle Town, and then probably go and head to Zora's Domain and see if I can clear out some of that stuff, find out what Lord Jabby Jabby wants, and go from there. But first we must become a child. And it's this childlike wonder that so many people talk about when they talk about Breath of the Wild. Because apparently it reminds them of the first Legend of Zelda game. And outside of complete lack of linearity, I don't see the resemblance, you know? The first Legend of Zelda game, it had, you know, although you could literally go wherever you wanted, it wasn't always the best decision to do so. And I've forgotten how you get the Prelude of Light. But yeah, it wasn't always the best decision to do so, and there were still some things that you needed items to progress through. You needed to get the lantern and the bombs and similar to actually do everything. So, you know, it wasn't quite as freestanding as people seem to remember it being. And then you come to Breath of the Wild and there's no sort of item progression, you just get it all at the beginning. It's like, there you go, there's your items, off you toddle. And yeah, there's no, you just get everything at the beginning and then you can go anywhere. And much like A Link Between Worlds, that has some real big problems when it comes to progression and pacing. But I'll get into that in a bit. I'll just go back to what I was saying the other episode about the divine beasts and dungeons. And part of what makes them so poor when it comes to uniqueness and theme and stuff is partly due to that, getting all of the items at the beginning. So, you know, there's a lot of problems with Breath of the Wild that we could talk about for a long time. But yeah, so what I'll do is we'll start from the beginning, I guess, of Breath of the Wild and why it's so awful, and we'll make our way sort of towards the end of it. So yeah, starting from point one, we will look at you know, like I said, it's open world nature that causes it problems. Oh, she actually values Richard. A whole heart she gave me for her Richard there. She must really love him. Ooh, Din's Fire. How much is Din's Fire, buddy? 145 rupees. I will come back for it. This is the treasure chest bone. Can't do that at the moment. Bomb Tube Alley, is it closed at night? No, so I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do a save state because I need to save my money. Why have I not got a picture for Bonchu anywhere? What's going on with this mini game? But yeah, Breath of the Wild hate. I'm sure, much like Ocarina of Time, at some point soon, or disliking Breath of the Wild will become a less sort of out there sort of take. Because at the moment, obviously, there's not many people that would agree with me. And, you know, more play to them. Can't argue with them not agreeing to me. And, you know, I'm not saying that they're right or wrong to agree or disagree with me, but for me, you know, like, the lack of progression, the poor progression points that were there for a whole bunch of problems with it, really, starting from the shrines. So, you know, you get through your tutorial island, and the tutorial island's actually really good, you know, it teaches you a lot about the game and what the game is going to be and bring and sort of everything, and I don't think there's a lot of negatives that you can really say about the tutorial. It teaches you about different environments, it teaches you what you're going to need to expect as you play the game, and teaches you a little bit about food and interactable objects and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, it's a reasonable entry point to the game. Can't believe that landed right on me. I'm gonna get so many Skulltulas this session. Wait, so that means I can't wake up her dad. I don't know why, I seem to remember there being rupees down there. So yeah, the tutorial island's really, really good. You know, and it makes sense that each of the dungeons would only use one of the various abilities you get, because it's the teaching point. Then you get off the island, and that's where the game starts rapidly going downhill. And I mean rapidly. So you get the shrines, which are kind of... I don't know how they fit into the bigger game picture. But I guess they'd be closest to pieces of hearts in other Zelda games, would be the closest thing, because obviously the orbs at the end give you pieces of hearts and stuff. Wow, so worth it. So, because they are so scattered out and they are individual little puzzles, there's no real continuity with them. So, there's no progression or increase or decrease in difficulty as you go through them, because they can't risk it that you're finding a particular one at the end or at the start. You have to make sure you find them in the right places, and that's a problem, because it means that you get, like, you're making your way through it, which is cool and stuff, but you reach a point eventually where there's nowhere for you to go next. There's no development for you, because, again, like I said, they can't assume that you've done anything particularly well. They can't assume that you've already seen a particular puzzle, so they can't build on that. There is one that does an interesting job of building on a concept, but it's not the best thing in the world. I'm not going to, like, try and oversell it here, but, like, there's a wind shrine where you have to direct wind onto various things, and the first one is like, oh yeah, you push wind this way, hooray. And then the second one is you, like, have to push wind in a certain direction on a timer, which again is pretty cool. Oh, that was close. That was so close. And then the third one is you have to push wind in a particular way. Oh, so lame. wanted at all. Let's go get some rupees real quick. Doodle-doodle-doo. Yeah, so you know, you get this wind idea and you build on it and you build on it and you build on it, but you don't ever get to see that puzzle ever again. And because they are just short little puzzles, you do get some cool ones, like there's the one with the star signs, star formations and stuff, where you've got to go and count how many there are in the opposite shrine and stuff, and that's really unique because you can use the stories of the world to support those as well. So for example, the twin peaks, which are a big deal in many different Zelda games, to be fair, but you can use them as a reason that people need to care about the fact these two shrines are linked, because they're twins, they're twinned peaks. So yeah, like some of the small puzzles make sense. Glad to know that I can save 2.29 gigabytes of space. Awesome. Ridiculous. Lost my track of thought because of sleeping then. Oh, so yeah, so you do get some cool small puzzles, but the thing is that there's no real challenging ones that are able to exist, because they all have to be able to stand on their own. It's just a shame, really. But it would have been, you know, less noticeable if it was side content. But it makes up the majority of the content. You know, if you compare another game that has just 4 dungeons, you'd compare, for example, Majora's Mask, which, much like Breath of the Wild, has 4 primary dungeons and then the final place that you go to, and then you have a bunch of side content to fill in those gaps, which is fine. For Majora's Mask, they did a really good job of that, and all of the side content feels really unique, but it's not, you know, because of how the rest of the world is structured, they were still able to create some sort of progression gating system whilst doing so. The reason I'm grinding these rupees is to go and get Din's Fire, by the way, if you were wondering what I was doing. Cool. Yeah, so like, and then even then, although there were side stories, there was a limit to the amount of side stories there were, for one. There wasn't some stupendous number like there are with Korok seeds and shrines. So it wasn't stupid to expect someone to beat them all. But the counterpoint is that they were also unique. Like, I can't remember what the exact number of it is, but if there's 120 shrines, I think it was something like 30 of them are combat shrines. And the thing is, on top of that, because they're not ability gated in any way, the combat shrines, you could end up finding a major test of combat before finding all of the minor ones, and then find the minor ones a complete boring, easy waste, like, rush through. So yeah, shrines, not a fan. On top of that, combine that with the fact that they've got this palette that is the same the whole way through the game. At no point in the game does the palette change for any of the dungeons, and I understand it from like a storyline point of view, you know. Okay, so that's a profit. Nifty. I understand it from a storyline point of view, I really do. There's a claim check there, which means I can do the Goron Mountain as well. Because all of them were built by the Sheikah. So, you know, it makes perfect sense that that would be the case, that you'd develop into a situation where oh, you have to go and do something somewhere else to open that. I can't remember what it is though. Let's go get Din's Fire. Let's go time for that, so okay. Super. Yeah, so shrines, not great. I mentioned Korok seeds whilst I was talking about that. And again, now Korok seeds are slightly less egregious because they are actually optional. I know I described the shrines as the optional context, such as the pieces of heart, but with stamina and hearts being so required, especially with the final boss of the game doing so much damage. Which I have no issue with that at all. The final boss of the game should give you a challenge, whether it's a challenge in the sense of it's hard to beat him, or whether it's a challenge in the sense of it's a new mechanic or something. So I have no issue with him doing a load of damage, but it means that you do have to absolutely complete some of the shrines. Let's just zoom in here. Super. Run past the dogs. That's not Richard. Richard! This way. Yeah, so the Korok seeds, they're just stupid. Just stupid. Like I say, less egregious because they're not essential. I'd say that because of the fact that equipment breaks, they are kind of essential, but they're not as essential as other things, for example. Then, you know, they can get away with being silly, and because they're not, you know, gated behind stupid loading screens all the time, and they're more world building based riddles, it kind of works out okay. You know, it's not quite as bad as some of the other stuff that you see as you play through the game. So yeah, I mean, like, it's not ideal, but it's not quite as bad. I've kind of lost my train of thought there. So Korok Siege, yeah. And at least the puzzles, you know, they're mostly unique. There's a couple that are similar, but again, they don't break away the main point in the gameplay. They're not locked behind a loading screen, and they weren't sold to us to be so important. When Breath of the Wild was announced to only have 4 major dungeons, people were like, yeah, but the shrines make up for it, it's fine. But they just don't. They're just so disappointing. And the Korok seeds, because they're dotted around the various environments of the world, it's okay. You at least have different visuals as you go through with everything. But again, you just don't get that with you just don't get that with the shrines. There's just no variance, and they all look the same. There's no real progression or change in what you're actually aiming to achieve, which in itself is just frustrating. Come on, fishy, why you not want it? Yeah, the shrine, I was really disappointed with the shrines, it's not clear. And then that brings me on to the Divine Beasts as well, which were just as disappointing. I can't even see what I'm doing here. Okay. Yeah, they were just as disappointing in the sense that, you know, it was the same thing again. They all look the same. So, something that, you know, assuming you're doing the shrines, which, you know, is a fair assumption to make, you're making your way through these shrines and whatnot, and you see the same tile set over and over and over and over again, and then you eventually manage to get out of there, and you find one of these big dungeons, and there's like a big storyline build up to it, and it's super cool, and then you actually get there, and it's like, well, I've already seen this tile set, what's new? And the first Divine Beast you get to, you'll be like, oh, this is super cool, it's super unique, and I've never seen anything like it, blah, blah, blah. But then the ones after that, are they that unique, really? Because, like I said, the actual gimmick to each of them is exactly the same every time. It's you move part of the dungeon to change the dungeon. They don't focus on one particular ability. Like, yes, the lead up to some of them does, like getting to the Zora one, which name's gone out of my head. You know, that took some difficulty with cryonesis, whatever, the ice one. You know, that was definitely challenging. And it was cool and it was unique, but then you get in there and it's just, oh, you move the trunk to move where the water is. Like, who cares? And then the next one is very similar to that, in the sense that, you know, say you go to the Goron one next, go and climb Death Mountain, and, oh, look, it's the same thing, except you can rotate which angle the dungeon's at. Like, great, big who cares. Then you got the third one, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe we'll get something different this time, and I don't know, maybe do the Rito one, and you're like, oh, cool. Come on, people, why are you so cheap? So yeah, you're like, oh, this is super cool. Now I've got the this big bird in the sky, and I'm doing all this cool arrow stuff to get into it, and then you get into the dungeon, and it's the same power palette, it's the same like goal, same story. Points. You still have to go and find the central console. You still have to go and do this. Oh, I haven't learned the song's form yet. Okay, that's frustrating. So you still go through the same set of things to get to the same outcome. And it really frustrates me how people defend parts of this game so heavily. And then, like I said the other episode, Vandaboris is actually something unique. I will give it that. It's still the same concept of moving parts of the dungeon around. So I'm not gonna like pretend that hasn't changed. But it is at least something unique to it. With the electric current that you have to carry through the dungeon, which is pretty cool. And you know, again, the Zora one, it could have done something like that with the water, but it's not. The water just controls the central water wheel, which allows you to access different parts of the dungeon. It doesn't do anything outside of that. Which is just so disappointing. It could have been brilliant. It really could have, and it just, I don't know, it just lost its opportunity, I guess. Did I buy Dinsfire in the end? I can't remember if I actually bought it. Please tell me I actually bought it. I'm going to be so annoyed at myself. I did. So yeah, like you know, and then the Goron's dungeon, the big lizard. Again, it looked like it had something unique going for it. Well, I haven't got a magic meter yet. I can't even use Dinsfire. Why did I go and get it? Oh, you idiot. But yeah, so it looked like it was going to be something, you know, unique with this pitch black dungeon that you have to explore. Maybe you have to light torches that temporarily turn on and then turn off again. It could have been awesome. And then it just wasn't. You know, it was just super. Oh, it actually is the Sun Soul. That's okay. I can't remember it. We have to look it up. Cannot remember it at all. Foolish. Foolish. Some more time. Oh. I see. I'm just being silly. too locked in on having an A in it. Cool. Well, that's going to come in handy for a variety of things, I suppose. I can't actually do this thing without magic, which is a problem. Big problem. I'm trying to think of where I can get magic from. So first let's make it nighttime here. Yeah, I was just really disappointed with the dungeons in Breath of the Wild, you know. They had so much potential going for them. And they just seem to squander it, I guess. So, yeah, not best pleased. Don't think I'll ever be best pleased by it. Oh well, it's one of those things, isn't it? Just have to suck it up. So, yeah. Right, well, I didn't get as far as I had intended to in this one, so I'm going to have to call it a little bit earlier than I would have wanted to. I wanted to go and do some other bits and bobs around, like I said. I wanted to have more golden Skulltulas than I do, that's for sure. Because I kind of was hoping to reach 10 in this episode and go and see what the dude in the house had for me, but I just don't think I'm going to be able to get there in time. Which is a pain. I need to try and find where Magic Meter is. I can't believe I bought Din's Fire, I don't even have magic yet, which is just stupid. But I did see the claim check, so I could go and do that. I need to go and do Child Link stuff in Goron Village and Zora Village, so we'll do that. And then we will, if that doesn't give us anything, we'll go and do the claim check stuff for the Big Goron, finish the trading sequence off, and go from there. Where's this way? It's way up there. Cool. And whilst we're at it, we might even get the last couple of golden Skulltulas that we're looking for as well, which would be handy. Grab that. I can't remember what was in the Zora's shop, to be honest, but what we'll do is we'll head up the mountain, swing around, and then come back down. I thought the mask trading sequence was finished, so I might actually have to go and deal with the mask stuff as well, but maybe that's just, again, once the shop's unlocked we get there. So, who knows. But yeah, so I'm sorry to have been so negative. I'm just not a big fan of Breath of the Wild, you may have noticed. And yeah, I'm just not a fan. I promise I'll be more positive next time, but I will see you when we get to Goron Village.